What looks like a regular field in Iceland behind me is actually home to the last execution in the country, and the crime that led to this execution is horrendous. So I'm going to share some of those details and how it became infamous in Icelandic history. This is what the entrance to Þrístapar looks like, which means 3 hillocks. So you could see those over to the right. So let me set the scene a little bit for you in terms of this story, who's involved, and how it came to be that these people got executed, like the heinous murder, double homicide, if you will, that happened. Starts off with Nathan. He's the owner of a farm, and he employs people on this farm. Now, he's not known, he does not have a good reputation as being that great of a guy. He's known to be quite manipulative, mean, even doing sexual assault to the women that work on his farm, gets into scuffles with people, takes advantage, charges tons of money for the homeopathy work that he learned in Copenhagen. And actually, it's said that he got his wealth from withholding treatment to a farm owner until the farm owner agreed in exchange to give him, Nathan, the farm in exchange for this treatment. The person didn't end up making it anyway, so really messed up on Nathan's part. But the point is, this is the target of this murders. And there's another guy who is just unfortunately there at the time when this happens. But the people who are involved in plotting and then actually following through on the murders are Friðrik, Agnes, and Sigríður. And Friðrik is the one doing the physical work, and he is actually not on the farm, meaning that he doesn't work there. He is the son of a farmer, and he visits Nathan's farm quite frequently. In fact, he was infatuated with Sigríður, who was 16. Friðrik is 18, Sigríður is 16. He's coming over there trying to get with her, even though he already has a mistress apparently, and he was known to be quite unruly too. Again, these characters, some of them, everybody's complicated, you know? But Sigríður, who's 16 years old, she's working there, has seen harm at the hands of Nathan, including being inappropriately touched and things like that. And Agnes, similarly, she is a housemaid, and she has encountered his anger. She even ran away one time to another farm, but then had to come back and say sorry in order to have her job there. But just overall in the 1800s, though, it's important to know that it was mandatory for people who didn't own land to be living and working somewhere. So they basically had to be locked into some type of situation with a farmer who was employing them. They couldn't just like be vagabonds rolling around, traveling, going from farm to farm, working. No, there was very strict rules around it. And that also meant that people could be tied to places with tyrants or mean individuals who abused them, like Nathan was known to do. So this set the scene, if you will, for there's mistreatment from like the women who were experiencing that from Nathan. And then there was also Friðrik, who had gotten into some kind of scuffle with Nathan once and then disliked him, but also coveted his wealth. And they all started to plot as to how they could get his wealth, but also to get away from this individual. And their plan then was to kill him. So one day Nathan was away, and Peter, who is this innocent person who was just like helping out on the farm where Nathan was away, was there. Nathan came back, and they both were in the house sleeping. Friðrik and Agnes enter the house, deciding they were going to kill that evening with a hammer, big hammer, and use that first on Peter and Nathan. But they realized that the hammer wasn't really working that well to kill them. So then a knife was used to stab these individuals. Really intense. To try and get rid of the remains, they burned the bodies and the house and left. However, neighbors saw what was happening, put out the fire, and they were able to put it out quickly enough to keep intact enough the bodies when they found them, and see that they had actually been damaged with bludgeoning and knife attacks, everything. So authorities were like, this was clearly a murder, started questioning people. Sigríður, the 16-year-old, confessed, and it all just kind of snowballed from there, and the other people were held accountable. So the three of them, Agnes, Friðrik, Sigríður, were supposed to be executed. However, Sigríður, the young one, they decided she was too young for that, and they sent her away to Copenhagen to basically do slave labor, and she died there. But Agnes and Friðrik were put to death, and the authorities wanted to make an example out of these two individuals. First of all, in the area, they felt like there was a lot of crime happening, and they wanted to discourage that as much as possible and show people that there is no mercy for those who do wicked things. So they, of course, had their execution where the farmers in the area were obligated to show up. And there was like 140 people that showed up, and no one was allowed to look away at this beheading. They wanted them to really see that this was not allowed, not okay. And so it's said that Agnes, who didn't feel like she got a fair representation of what happened or to speak her piece, she ended up, kind of somberly going into her execution and was even unconscious potentially when it happened, when she was beheaded, whereas Friðrik came in. I've seen a report, I've seen online when someone says he was singing. It doesn't say that at Þrístapar, but it did say that he kissed the axe that was going to behead him. So he was ready. He was like, it is what it is. I did it. Do your job. And yeah, they both beheaded, and then their heads were put on stakes. So one each on a stake that were on the road for people to see as they came by. Because again, this was meant to be an example for people to not do this. And it was only there for like maybe a day or two before the remains were then put in an area where criminals are normally put. It's not really like the nicest in terms of places, respectable, if you will. And so this ended up being the last execution in Iceland. Later on, the death penalty was abolished in Iceland, not right after this. I mean, technically people could have been executed, but it was something that, of course, was seen as really brutal. And they were not wanting to continue on with this, which I think is fascinating because people would probably think, oh, the land of Vikings, or people who have come here that had been Vikings would totally be cool with that. But society evolves, and this is not something that Icelanders wanted to be a part of their penal code. As now, it's very different than maybe some other places, how much time a person was served, even if they murdered somebody, and, drug possession, all of that. I find this site really fascinating. So if you are in North Iceland and want to stop at Þrístapar to read more of the story, definitely feel free to do that. I find history in general really cool, and then like dark history that gives you some insights into the more complicated things that happen, including I have a video coming up where it's Iceland's only known serial killer, right? So hopefully in the future this isn't to become a thing where there's another one, but there is a serial killer, an Icelandic one from back in the day who did some heinous crimes as well. But just overall gist of Þrístapar, this execution, and of course the crime that led to this execution. And let me know, are you interested in this kind of dark history videos and seeing a site like this? If you've been to Þrístapar, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I personally enjoyed, like I mentioned, just reading about the history part and understanding it better and seeing the site, how they set it up. Of course, I'm mixing in these types of videos with travel, pregnancy updates, life, all of that. So if you're enjoying that, definitely give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody who you think would also find this series interesting. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.